I'm sitting here in the quiet of my living room, the sun casting long shadows across the floor, and all I can think about is the moment when my son looked me in the eye and said, "You're old, stay home." Those words hit me like a ton of bricks, echoing in my mind long after he left. I never expected to feel so abandoned, so invisible. It was as if, in that instant, he had stripped away my identity, my purpose, and my place in this world. I felt like a ghost, haunting the very home I had spent decades nurturing, a mere shadow of the vibrant woman I once was. Before I continue, tell me in the comments what city you're watching from. I want to know how far my story reaches. You see, I've always been a fighter. Life threw its share of challenges at me, and I faced them head on. I raised my son, nurtured him, and sacrificed so much for him to have a better life. But now, as I sit here, I can't help but feel like those sacrifices have gone unnoticed, like I'm just a relic of the past, a reminder of days gone by. The weight of his words hangs over me, a constant reminder of my perceived obsolescence. I remember the day vividly, the sun shining brightly as if mocking my despair. I had planned to attend his big day, a moment he had been waiting for, but instead, I found myself sitting on the sidelines, feeling discarded. My heart ached as I watched him prepare for the event, his excitement palpable, while I was left to grapple with the sting of rejection. I wanted to scream, to tell him that I was still here, still capable of love and support, but the words caught in my throat. As I reflect on my life, I can't help but think of the moments that led me here. I was once the center of my family, the one who held everything together. I remember the laughter that filled our home, the warmth of family gatherings, and the way my son would look at me with admiration. Those days feel like a distant memory now, overshadowed by the loneliness that has crept into my life. It's strange how quickly things can change, how the people you love can become strangers. I can't shake the feeling that there's more to this situation than meets the eye. My son's words were not just a dismissal. They felt like a culmination of years of unspoken tension, a reflection of a deeper issue that I had overlooked. I've always prided myself on being perceptive, but perhaps I had been too engrossed in my own world to see the cracks forming in our relationship. I often find myself reminiscing about my youth, a time when I felt invincible, when the world was full of possibilities. I remember the dreams I had, the aspirations that fueled my spirit. I was going to change the world, or at least make a difference in the lives of those around me. But as the years passed, those dreams faded, replaced by the responsibilities of motherhood and the demands of life. I poured my heart into raising my son, ensuring he had everything he needed to succeed. I thought that love and dedication would be enough to forge an unbreakable bond between us. But now I question everything. Did I do too much? Did I smother him with my love? I can't help but wonder if my efforts to protect him from the harsh realities of life created a rift between us. I wanted him to thrive, to have opportunities I never had, but perhaps I inadvertently stifled his independence. My heart aches at the thought that my love may have pushed him away instead of drawing him closer. As I sit in silence, I find myself searching for answers in the depths of my memories. I remember the time I took him to the park, the laughter we shared as we played on the swings. I remember the way he would run to me, arms outstretched, as if I were his entire world. Those moments feel like a lifetime ago, replaced by the cold reality of our current relationship. I long for that connection again, the warmth of his embrace, the sparkle in his eyes that once filled my heart with joy. What happened to us? Where did we go wrong? I can't shake the feeling that there's a secret lurking beneath the surface, something that has driven a wedge between us. I often replay conversations in my mind, searching for clues, for signs that I missed. I think back to the times he seemed distant, the moments when he would retreat into himself, and I wonder if I ignored the signs. I remember one particular evening when he came home from school, his face clouded with frustration. I asked him what was wrong, but he brushed me off, muttering something about needing space. I should have pressed him, should have insisted he talk to me, but I didn't want to intrude. I thought I was giving him the independence he craved, but now I see it as a missed opportunity to connect. As the days turned into weeks, I noticed the distance growing between us. He became more absorbed in his own world, spending hours on his phone, rarely engaging in conversation. I tried to reach out, to bridge the gap, but each attempt felt like I was pushing him further away. I often found myself sitting alone, consumed by a sense of loss, wondering if I had somehow failed him as a mother. I wish I could turn back time to those carefree days when we shared everything. I wish I could hold on to the moments that defined our bond, but instead, I'm left with the haunting words of my son, a painful reminder of my perceived inadequacy. I want to scream, to tell him that I'm still here, still capable of love and support, but the words catch in my throat, trapped by the weight of my own insecurities. In my heart, I know that I must confront this pain, this feeling of abandonment. I can't let it consume me. I refuse to be a victim of my circumstances. I have to find a way to reclaim my identity, to rediscover the woman I once was before motherhood defined me. But how do I do that when the very person I long to connect with has pushed me away? I can feel the urgency building within me, a need to understand the truth behind my son's words. I can't let this festering wound define our relationship. I must dig deeper, uncover the secrets that lie beneath the surface. I owe it to myself and to him to seek the truth, to confront the emotions that have been buried for far too long. As I sit here, lost in my thoughts, I can't help but wonder if there's a way to mend our fractured bond. I have to believe that there's hope, that we can find our way back to each other. I owe it to myself to take that first step, to confront the pain and seek the answers that have eluded me for so long. With each passing moment, I feel a flicker of determination igniting within me. I refuse to let my age define me. I refuse to let my son's words dictate my worth. I am still here, still capable of love and connection. I will not be silenced by the weight of my years. As I embark on this journey of self-discovery and healing, I hold on to the hope that one day my son will understand the depth of my love and the sacrifices I made for him. I will not give up on our relationship, no matter how distant it may seem. I will fight for our connection, for the bond that once defined us. And as I prepare to delve into the mysteries of my past, I can't shake the feeling that there's something waiting for me, a revelation that will change everything. I can feel it in my bones, a whisper urging me to uncover the truth, to confront the shadows that have loomed over my life for far too long. I'm ready to face whatever lies ahead, to confront the secrets that have shaped my identity. I will no longer be a mere spectator in my own life. I will take charge, reclaim my narrative, and forge a path toward healing and connection. The journey ahead may be daunting, but I refuse to let fear hold me back. I will rise from the ashes of my perceived obsolescence and embrace the woman I am today. I will not let my age define my worth. I will not let my son's words dictate my future. As I embark on this journey of self-discovery and healing, I hold on to the hope that one day my son will understand the depth of my love and the sacrifices I made for him. I will not give up on our relationship, no matter how distant it may seem. I will fight for our connection, for the bond that once defined us. And as I prepare to delve into the mysteries of my past, I can't shake the feeling that there's something waiting for me, a revelation that will change everything. I can feel it in my bones, a whisper urging me to uncover the truth, to confront the shadows that have loomed over my life for far too long. I'm ready to face whatever lies ahead, to confront the secrets that have shaped my identity. I will no longer be a mere spectator in my own life. I will take charge, reclaim my narrative, and forge a path toward healing and connection. The journey ahead may be daunting, but I refuse to let fear hold me back. I will rise from the ashes of my perceived obsolescence and embrace the woman I am today. I will not let my age define my worth. I will not let my son's words dictate my future. As I embark on this journey of self-discovery and healing, I hold on to the hope that one day my son will understand the depth of my love and the sacrifices I made for him. I will not give up on our relationship, no matter how distant it may seem. I will fight for our connection, for the bond that once defined us. And as I prepare to delve into the mysteries of my past, I can't shake the feeling that there's something waiting for me, a revelation that will change everything. I can feel it in my bones, a whisper urging me to uncover the truth, to confront the shadows that have loomed over my life for far too long. I'm ready to face whatever lies ahead, to confront the secrets that have shaped my identity. I will no longer be a mere spectator in my own life. I will take charge, reclaim my narrative, and forge a path toward healing and connection. The journey ahead may be daunting, but I refuse to let fear hold me back. I will rise from the ashes of my perceived obsolescence and embrace the woman I am today. I will not let my age define my worth. I will not let my son's words dictate my future. I can feel the weight of my past pressing down on me, but I also feel a flicker of hope igniting within me. I will confront the pain, the loneliness, and the secrets that have haunted me for far too long. I will seek the truth, not just for myself, but for my son as well. As I sit here, reflecting on my life, I can't help but wonder what lies ahead. I'm ready to embrace the unknown, to confront the shadows of my past, and to uncover the truth that has eluded me for so long. I will not be silenced by the weight of my years. I will rise, and I will reclaim my story. I often find myself reflecting on the moments that have defined my life, the choices I made, and the sacrifices I endured. It's a strange feeling, looking back through the lens of my age, knowing that the years have shaped me into who I am today, yet so many of those years seem to have been spent in shadows, unnoticed and unappreciated. I remember the laughter of my children, the warmth of my husband's embrace, and the dreams I once held close. But now, those memories feel like echoes in an empty room, reverberating with the pain of abandonment and loss. In the quiet of my home, I often hear the whispers of my past. They remind me of the times I stood on the sidelines, cheering for my son as he played soccer or performed in school plays. I was his biggest fan, always there, always supporting him. But now, it feels as though I have become a ghost in my own life, a mere spectator to the vibrant world that continues to move forward without me. The day my son told me, "You're old, stay home," was the day I realized just how invisible I had become. It was a sunny Saturday morning, the kind of day that beckons you to step outside and soak in the warmth. I had spent the week preparing for his big day, his graduation from college, the culmination of years of hard work and dedication. I was so proud of him, bursting with excitement to celebrate this milestone. But when I approached him, eager to share in his joy, his words cut through me like a knife. "You're old, stay home." Just like that, the air was sucked from my lungs, and I felt the weight of his dismissal settle heavily on my shoulders. I can still see the look on his face, a mixture of embarrassment and frustration, as if my presence would somehow tarnish his moment. I had never felt so small, so unworthy. It was as if the years of love and sacrifice I had poured into raising him meant nothing. I wanted to scream, to tell him how much I had given up for him. how I had spent sleepless nights worrying about his future, how I had sacrificed my own dreams to ensure his success. But all I could do was nod, a silent acceptance of the truth he had spoken. As I sat alone in my living room, the echoes of his words replaying in my mind, I felt an overwhelming sense of abandonment wash over me. I was no longer a mother in his eyes. I was just an old woman, a relic of the past. I thought of the countless times I had put my own needs aside, the dreams I had shelved for the sake of my family. My heart ached as I recalled the sacrifices I had made, working long hours to provide for us, putting my education on hold to care for my children, and always prioritizing their happiness over my own. I wanted to scream, to shake him awake, to make him understand the depth of my love and the weight of my sacrifices. But instead, I found myself enveloped in a thick fog of sadness. I had poured my heart and soul into raising him, and now I felt like a stranger in my own home. I thought back to the times when he would run to me with scraped knees, seeking comfort and reassurance. I was his safe haven, the one person he could always count on. Now, it felt as though that bond had been severed, leaving me adrift in a sea of loneliness. Days turned into weeks, and I watched from the sidelines as my son prepared for his graduation. I saw the excitement in his eyes as he shared stories of his friends and the plans they had for the future. I wanted to be a part of that world again, to share in his joy, but I felt like an intruder. I couldn't shake the feeling that my presence would only serve to remind him of my age, of the burden I had become. So I stayed home, hiding away in the shadows while he stepped into the light. As I sat in my favorite armchair, I often found myself lost in thought, replaying the memories of my life. I recalled the day I met his father, the spark of love that ignited between us, and the dreams we shared of building a family. I remembered the laughter that filled our home, the warmth of family gatherings, and the way my heart swelled with pride as I watched my children grow. But those memories felt distant now, like a faded photograph that had lost its color. I had always been the glue that held our family together, the one who organized birthdays, holidays, and family vacations. But as the years passed, I felt that glue slowly dissolving, leaving me feeling isolated and forgotten. My husband had passed away years ago, and with him went the last remnants of the life I once knew. I had tried to fill that void, to create new memories with my children, but it felt as though I was fighting an uphill battle against the relentless tide of time. In the quiet moments, I would sift through old photo albums, tracing my fingers over the images of happier times. I could see the joy in my children's eyes, the love that radiated from our family. But as I turned the pages, I was reminded of the void that had grown between us. My husband had passed away years ago, and with him went the last remnants of the life I once knew. I had tried to fill that void, to create new memories with my children, but it felt as though I was fighting an uphill battle against the relentless tide of time. In the quiet moments, I would sift through old photo albums, tracing my fingers over the images of happier times. I could see the joy in my children's eyes, the love that radiated from our family. But as I turned the pages, I was reminded of the void that had grown between us. I longed for connection, for the warmth of their presence, but it felt as if I was reaching for something just out of my grasp. I often thought about my son and the man he had become. He was intelligent, ambitious, and driven, qualities I had nurtured in him from a young age. I had instilled in him the values of hard work and perseverance, hoping he would one day achieve greatness. But now I couldn't help but wonder if those very qualities had led him to view me as an obstacle rather than a source of support. I feared that my age had become a burden he no longer wanted to carry. As his graduation day approached, I felt a mix of pride and sorrow. I wanted to celebrate his achievements, to shower him with love and encouragement, but the weight of his words hung heavily in the air. I was torn between the desire to support him and the fear of being rejected again. I often replayed the moment in my mind, wishing I could turn back time and approach it differently. I wanted to tell him how much I loved him, how proud I was of his accomplishments, but the words always seemed to stick in my throat. On the day of his graduation, I found myself standing at the window, watching as families gathered outside, laughter and joy filling the air. I felt like a spectator in my own life, observing the world through a glass barrier that separated me from the happiness I once knew. I wanted to be out there, to join in the celebration, but the fear of being cast aside held me back. As the ceremony began, I sat in silence, my heart heavy with conflicting emotions. I could hear the cheers and applause from outside, the sound of celebration echoing in my ears. I imagined my son walking across the stage, his face beaming with pride as he accepted his diploma. I wanted to be there, to share in that moment, but the fear of being unwanted kept me rooted in place. In that moment of solitude, I began to reflect on my life's journey, the choices I had made, and the sacrifices I had endured. I thought of the years spent nurturing my family, the love I had poured into raising my children, and the dreams I had set aside for their sake. I realized that I had given everything to them, but somewhere along the way, I had lost sight of myself. I remembered the dreams I had once held close, the aspirations I had set aside as I embraced motherhood. I had always wanted to be an artist, to paint the world as I saw it. But as my family grew, my dreams faded into the background, overshadowed by the demands of motherhood. I had convinced myself that my worth was tied to their happiness, that my identity was defined by my role as a mother. But now, as I stood alone in my living room, I wondered if I had lost more than just my dreams. I had lost myself. As the ceremony progressed, I felt a flicker of determination ignite within me. I realized that I could no longer allow my son's words to define my worth. I had spent too long in the shadows, waiting for validation from others. It was time to reclaim my identity, to embrace the woman I had become, and to seek out the dreams I had buried deep within. I began to formulate a plan, a way to reconnect with my son and show him that I was still here, still capable of love and support. I wanted him to see me not as an old woman, but as a vibrant, passionate individual who still had so much to offer. I would not let his words dictate my future any longer. I would rise from the ashes of my perceived obsolescence and embrace the journey of self-discovery that lay ahead. I started to gather my art supplies, dusting off the brushes and canvases that had long been neglected. I felt a surge of excitement as I envisioned the colors and shapes that would soon come to life. I would pour my heart into my art, using it as a means of expression and healing. I wanted my son to see that I was more than just his mother. I was a woman with dreams, passions, and a voice that deserved to be heard. As I painted, I felt the weight of my past begin to lift. Each stroke of the brush became a release, a way to channel my emotions into something beautiful. I painted the memories of my family, the laughter we shared, and the love that had once filled our home. I painted the dreams I had set aside, the aspirations that had been silenced for too long. With each passing day, I felt more alive, more connected to the woman I had once been. I knew that my journey wouldn't be easy, but I was determined to face the challenges ahead. I wanted to reconnect with my son, to show him that I was still here, still capable of love and support. I wanted him to understand that my age did not define my worth, that I still had so much to offer. As I prepared for the days ahead, I felt a renewed sense of hope. I would no longer let fear hold me back. I would embrace the woman I had become, and I would fight for my relationship with my son. I would show him that love knows no age, that the bond we shared could withstand the test of time. And so, with my heart full of determination, I set forth on this journey of self-discovery, ready to confront the shadows of my past and reclaim my story. I would rise and I would embrace the life that lay ahead, a life filled with love, passion, and the hope of reconnecting with my son. As I sat in my small, sunlit studio, surrounded by the comforting chaos of paint tubes and brushes, I felt a familiar pull, a whisper of the past beckoning me to remember. It was strange how something as simple as a paintbrush could unearth a flood of memories, but that's exactly what happened. Each time I dipped the brush into vibrant colors, I was transported back to moments that shaped my life, moments I had long buried beneath layers of disappointment and sorrow. I remember the first time I held a brush, how it felt like an extension of my very soul. I was just a girl, barely 10 years old, sitting at my grandmother's kitchen table, the smell of fresh bread wafting through the air. She had a way of bringing colors to life, always encouraging me to express myself. Art is the language of the heart, she would say, her wise eyes twinkling with joy. Those words echoed in my mind as I painted, but as I painted now, my heart felt heavy. I recalled how my passion for art had faded over the years, overshadowed by the demands of life, family, and the relentless march of time. I had poured my love into my son, nurturing him, supporting him, and sacrificing my own dreams for his future. I had thought that was the essence of motherhood, but in doing so, I had lost sight of myself. With each stroke of the brush, I felt a flicker of that lost passion reignite. I painted my son as a child, his face lit up with laughter, his small hands covered in paint, just like mine once were. I remembered the pride I felt when he created his first masterpiece, a simple drawing of a tree that looked more like a lopsided triangle. I had hung it on the fridge, a symbol of his creativity, but now it was just a distant memory. I could hear his laughter in my mind, the way it used to fill our home with warmth. But that laughter had grown quieter over the years, replaced by the silence that followed his words, "You're old, stay home." The weight of those words pressed down on me, a reminder of the chasm that had formed between us. I was determined to bridge that gap, to reconnect with him, but I knew it wouldn't be easy. As I painted, I stumbled upon a small, dusty box tucked away in the corner of my studio. I hadn't seen it in years, but something about it called to me. I opened the lid, revealing a collection of old photographs, letters, and trinkets from my past. Each item held a story, a piece of my history that had been forgotten. I picked up a faded photograph of my mother, her eyes sparkling with life, and I felt a pang of longing. She had always been my biggest supporter, encouraging me to pursue my dreams. But as I grew older, her voice had faded, much like my own dreams. I longed to hear her laughter again, to feel her warmth beside me. I glanced at a letter she had written to me during a particularly challenging time, her words filled with love and encouragement. "Never forget who you are, my dear," she had written. "You are stronger than you know." Tears welled in my eyes as I read her words, and I realized how much I had lost touch with that strength. I had allowed my identity to be defined by my role as a mother, as a caregiver, and in doing so, I had become invisible. But now, as I immersed myself in my art, I felt that strength beginning to return. I reached for another photograph, this one of my grandmother and me, both of us covered in paint, smiles stretching across our faces. I could almost hear her voice whispering in my ear, urging me to embrace my creativity once more. I felt a surge of inspiration wash over me, and I knew I had to keep painting. As I delved deeper into my memories, I unearthed fragments of my past that I had long buried. I remembered the struggles I faced as a young woman, the choices I made, and the sacrifices I had endured. I thought of the dreams I had set aside, the aspirations that had been silenced by the responsibilities of life. I recalled the day I met my husband, how he had swept me off my feet with his charm and charisma. We had shared dreams of a beautiful life together, but as the years passed, those dreams had shifted. The weight of reality had settled in, and I found myself lost in the demands of family and work. I had thought I was building a life, but in truth, I was slowly losing myself. I painted through the night, pouring my heart into the canvas, each brushstroke a release of emotion. I painted the joy of motherhood, the pain of loss, and the struggle for identity. I painted my son, now a man, and the distance that had grown between us. I wanted him to see the woman I had become, the woman who still had dreams and passions. I wanted him to understand that I was not just his mother, but a vibrant individual deserving of love and respect. The sun began to rise, casting a warm glow over my studio, and I stepped back to admire my work. The canvas was alive with color, a reflection of my journey, my struggles, and my triumphs. I felt a sense of accomplishment wash over me, a realization that I was reclaiming my identity, one brushstroke at a time. But as I stood there, a thought crept into my mind. Would my son see this? Would he understand the depth of my emotions, the passion that still burned within me? I longed to share this moment with him, to bridge the gap that had formed between us. I wanted him to know that I was still here, still capable of love and support, and that I was ready to embrace the future. I decided then and there that I would invite him to my studio. I would show him my paintings, my journey, and the woman I had become. I wanted him to see that I was not just an old woman, but a vibrant soul still capable of creating beauty. As I prepared for his visit, I felt a mix of excitement and trepidation. What would he say? Would he understand? I hoped that by sharing my art, I could open his eyes to the woman I truly was, the woman he had overlooked. The day of our meeting arrived, and I felt a flutter of nerves in my stomach. I had spent the morning tidying up my studio, ensuring that everything was perfect for his arrival. I wanted him to see how much this meant to me, how much I had poured into my art. When he finally walked through the door, I felt my heart race. He looked different, more mature, but there was still a hint of the boy I once knew. I could see the lines of stress etched on his face, and it broke my heart. "Mom," he said, his voice hesitant, "I didn't know you were still painting." I smiled, trying to mask the nervousness that bubbled within me. "I've been working on some new pieces. I wanted to share them with you." As I guided him through my studio, I watched his expression shift from surprise to intrigue. He studied each painting, his brows furrowing as he took in the emotions I had poured onto the canvas. I could see the gears turning in his mind, and for the first time in a long time, I felt a glimmer of hope. "Wow, Mom. This is incredible," he finally said, his voice filled with genuine admiration. I felt a swell of pride as he continued to explore my work. "I didn't know you had this in you. It's beautiful." "Thank you," I replied, my voice trembling with emotion. "I've been rediscovering myself through art. It's a part of who I am, and I wanted you to see that." He turned to me, and for a moment our eyes locked. I could see the realization dawning on him, the understanding that I was still here, still capable of love and creativity. "Mom, I'm sorry," he said, his voice cracking. "I didn't mean what I said before. I didn't know how to handle everything." I stepped closer, my heart aching for him. "I understand, sweetheart. Life can be overwhelming, but I want you to know that I'm still here for you, and I want to be a part of your life." He nodded, tears brimming in his eyes. "I want that too. I've missed you." In that moment, I felt a shift within both of us. The walls that had formed between us began to crumble, and I could see a path toward healing. It wouldn't be easy, but we were both willing to try. As we continued to talk, I shared the stories behind each painting, the emotions that had driven me to create. I told him about my grandmother, my mother, and the legacy of strength they had passed down to me. I spoke of the dreams I had set aside and the journey I was on to reclaim them. He listened intently, his eyes wide with understanding. "I had no idea, Mom. I always thought you were just, old." I chuckled softly, grateful for the honesty. "I may be older, but that doesn't mean I'm any less of a person. I still have dreams, passions, and a life to live." Our conversation flowed effortlessly, and for the first time in a long time, I felt a connection with my son that had been missing. We laughed, we cried, and we shared our hopes for the future. As the afternoon sun began to set, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. I had reclaimed a part of myself, and in doing so, I had begun to rebuild my relationship with my son. "Mom," he said, his voice filled with sincerity, "I want to support you in this. Let's work on something together. I want to be a part of your journey." My heart swelled with gratitude. I would love that. We can create something beautiful together. In that moment, I realized that the shadows of the past were beginning to lift. The journey of self-discovery was not just mine, it was ours. Together, we would navigate the complexities of life, embracing the beauty of our shared experiences. As I watched him leave that day, I felt a renewed sense of hope. The words, "You're old, stay home," no longer held power over me. I had reclaimed my identity, and I was ready to embrace the future. If my story touched you, subscribe to the channel and share it so more people never give up on hope.